In this video, I'm going to share with you my YouTube studio on a stand. Now, this is definitely not a new concept. Actually, the first person I think that made it popular was Kayla from DSLR Shooter 4 years ago. Since then, a lot of people have created their own. I'm going to take you step by step on how I put this together, show you all the parts, and show you how it's really changed my workflow. Let's get into it. Whether you're a full-time or part-time content creator, one of the toughest things sometimes is to get started. Now, one hindrance of getting started is equipment setup. We're talking about setting up tripods, light stands, microphones, the camera, etc. Hopefully having an all-in-one solution like this will take away that hindrance and help you get started. My name is Patrick and this is Everyday Tech for everyday people. And I'm going to take you step by step on how I put this all-in-one solution together. Now, I will say up front, most of this equipment I already owned, and I only bought 2 or 3 things in addition after I started this project. But after I go through all this setup, I'm going to give you my recommendations of what I would buy if I were starting this from scratch. I'm going to go through all the cost and then give you some even more recommendations on how I would improve this. Then I'm going to give you the different scenarios or different ways how I'm using this setup and tell you how it's really benefited me. The center of any YouTube studio on a stand is the stand itself. And I have the ProMaster LS2N light stand here, and I'm very happy with this stand. Now, I originally got this for portrait photography, where I put some strobes on there, but I quickly used this for some of my videos as well. So as you can see, the base is very wide. I can make it even wider, or I can make it more narrow if I'm transporting this in tighter spots, or I need to put it in a tighter spot. But I'm very happy with this stand. This is a heavy duty stand. Actually, on their website, they labeled it as a medium duty stand, but this is definitely a very sturdy stand. I don't need to put any sandbags on there as far as my own personal setup here is concerned. So this is a light stand, so we need to pair it with a light. And so I have a newer 60-watt LED video light here paired with a 24-inch softbox, also by Neewer as well. Now, I would not really recommend this light or this softbox, but this is what I already had. Now, I did get this for $60 on a Prime Day deal, so maybe at that price I would get it again, but definitely not this softbox, although I did get this for very cheap, used on Amazon as well. Now, the reason why I wouldn't get this light necessarily is it's pretty loud. The fan is pretty loud, which is not a big deal for my setup because I do a lot of audio processing afterwards, so I can get around that. And then the problem with this softbox here is it takes forever to set up. It's not collapsible. So if you're getting a softbox, I would recommend getting something that's easy to set up because it's a pain not only to set up, but also to break down. But here, this goes right on top of our light stand. I'm going to tighten it up here. And we are ready to go. I can loosen this part to rotate it, and this becomes my key light, and sometimes really my only light for most of my videos here. Let's talk about mounting the camera to the stand itself. Now, one of the few accessories I did buy is this Impact Super Clamp with a ratchet handle. Now, I'm a big fan of the small rig super clamps, but the problem with that is if you compare the size of the small rig to this, it's kind of night and day. Now, the small rig did support the weight of my camera, but I didn't feel comfortable leaving it on there permanently or overnight. So I took it off when I wasn't using it, and when I was starting to record, then I would clamp it on. But I wanted something more permanent, so I got this heavy-duty super clamp by Impact. This one does have holes for some accessory arms, which I did buy, and some threads here for other accessories, which I'll get into in a moment. But in order to attach it, we just go ahead and loosen this and tighten this to the pole, and once we have it tightened, it's not going anywhere. But if we need to rotate this or put it up or down, we just loosen it a little bit and then tighten it once we get the position. So very easy. Then as far as the accessory arm is concerned, this is a 6-inch accessory arm, also from Impact. This is a all metal arm here, so it's very well built. And to attach it, we're just going to attach it to this area here. There's a button under there. We'll tighten it with a screw here. Now, attached to the arm itself is the Ulanzi ball head. And this is an area where I would probably upgrade depending on the weight of your camera. Now, I'll talk about this in future upgrades, but I may upgrade to a heavier duty ball head because I want to do some other stuff that will require more weight on this area. Now, my camera of choice is the Sony a6400. I already have the plate that came with the Ulanzi ball head. All we do is just attach it here, tighten up the plate on the ball head, and we're pretty much ready to go. Let's talk about audio for a moment here. I'm using the Takstar SGC598 shotgun microphone. It's a very inexpensive microphone that suits my needs. You could use a wireless microphone like I'm using the Rode wireless microphone right now for this recording, but I didn't want to have to deal with batteries and setting things up, although this does have a rechargeable battery that I need to worry about once in a while, but this is pretty much ready to go. Now, I can mount this a few ways, but the problem with the a6400 is normally I would just mount it on the hot shoe here, but there's this flip-up screen that a lot of the Sonys have and a lot of different cameras have that make this not possible. So what we need to do is mount it off the camera here, and we're going to use an accessory, an articulating arm here. So the articulating arm here I have is from Newer. This did come with a super clamp, and so I can just pretty much clamp it onto here, and we're pretty much ready to go. But I kind of wanted to use less parts, and this will be a permanent kind of solution. So I do have some threads on this impact super clamp that we talked about before. So I'm going to go ahead and mount it on there right now. Okay, so now we have our microphone mounted, and you have to make sure you're careful of which way this arm is leaning because of the threads. If this is leaning too forward, it could probably fall forward as well. Now this brings me to another point of the flexibility of this kind of setup. Actually, what should happen is maybe we can put the microphone on the left side of the camera here or the right side of the camera, depending on how you're looking. So let me just rotate this whole setup right now and kind of show you the flexibility of what we're talking about here. So as I rotate this, now our light's finally facing the right direction, but just for the sake of this demo here, I'm going to face it that way first. We need to have the camera facing that way, so I can loosen up this area here, rotate it, and then we still have use of our ball head here. And then now we can rotate our microphone and face it front and actually we'll get it closer to the mouth or my mouth while I'm recording, and I can point it directly to where I will be speaking into the camera. So this is one kind of example of how this is pretty flexible. I didn't tighten this very well, but if you imagine that if it's on the other side, it's just going to flop over. So all I have to do is tighten this a little bit better, and we're pretty much ready to go as far as audio is concerned. Let's talk about one of the things that makes my setup pretty unique is the use of an iPad. Now, in a previous video, I talked about using the iPad as a camera monitor, and we're going to go ahead and do it the same right now. And so one of the things we have to worry about is mounting the iPad. So we could use one of those iPad mounts with the tripod head, and I may do that in the future. But what I chose to go with this time is this gooseneck tabletop mount. And the reason why I went with this is because I already had it, first of all. But if I were to do it all over again, I may choose something like that as well, because it gives me the flexibility of moving the iPad anywhere on this setup. But we're going to go ahead and tighten this onto our stand here, and then we can move the stand and mount the iPad any position that we want. Like any of these mounts, you can tighten it or loosen it and adjust the height pretty easily, and adjust the rotation. Now, the one thing you have to watch out for this particular setup is this is made for a tabletop, so it's going to rotate. And so that means the problem is that it might rotate down like that and fall over, right? So what we need is one of these kind of Velcro zip ties or cable ties here. And I'm going to go ahead and put that here. Now this is pretty much secure and ready to go. And let's go ahead and mount our iPad here. So now we have an iPad as far as my camera monitor is concerned. And I'm actually using this much more than just a camera monitor. and I'll get into that in a later video as well. Now that we have everything clamped and set up, all we have to do is do all the cable connections. So we have the microphone connected to the camera. If depending on where the microphone is positioned, you may need an extension cable, which I do have. Then we have the HDMI out into our iPad, into a USB capture card. And I'll go into that setup in a future video. And the other thing that we have to worry about is power. So the only thing that doesn't have batteries in it is this light up here. So we could use something like the power station. I have one here. It's a very inexpensive one by Novu. I don't think they make these anymore, but this will power it for hours, right? And if I have a dummy battery for this, I can also plug it into the same power station. Then I also have a dongle that can power and use a capture card for my iPad. So there are different ways that we can power this setup using just one big battery as well. One of the reasons why I love this setup, besides not having to do any setup really, is I can change the look of my videos. Now, since I moved back down to this basement office, I really didn't have the flexibility to worry about set design or background. So now that I have this setup, I have the flexibility to kind of change the look. So for example, if I change the position of this setup or change just even the direction of the stand, we can get different looks. So a simple turn of my setup to this wall gives me a totally different look. Of course, these shelves are really messy right now, but once I start using this look, I can really start decorating what goes on these shelves, and it really gives me a really good look. And here's one more angle facing the opposite wall. We have the pegboard over here, which is very messy. You can see I could dress that up a little bit more. And I have my monitor here, so I can put something on the monitor. So really, this is giving me a lot more flexibility. So let me give you a breakdown of all the costs of this setup. I'm gonna go item by item, give you the prices as of this recording of these items, and also give you the availability. I'm not gonna give you necessarily what I paid for them, and also some items are discontinued or not available. So I'm gonna give you the equivalent item and the prices of them. So for example, this ProMaster stand is still available online. I bought it at my camera shop, local camera shop, so you can definitely find it cheaper than what I paid for online. And then this video light from Newer is not available. There are equivalent ones out there, but I paid really cheap for this light on Prime Day, and including this softbox, I bought it used on Amazon. In other words, I'm going to give you some prices, but there are deals to be found online. I'm going to show you on screen kind of a breakdown of all the costs, item by item. But everything costs about $307 for this particular setup. Now again, at the start of this project, I only spent maybe about $35 to $40 more on different things to kind of complete this setup. But I would say if you're starting a studio setup like this, I would say use what you have first and slowly kind of build up until you really know what you need. I'll point out that if I were to do this all again from scratch, there are a few upgrades that I would consider doing. For example, the light stand. If I had a little bit more room in my office or in a studio, I'd get a light stand with wheels. But that alone would cost $100 more than what I have now. I'm really happy with this light stand though. Then the video light, I'd definitely get something quieter. The softbox, I'd definitely get something that is easily collapsible and easy to set up. But the main upgrade, and something that I might do in the near future, is upgrade the ball head to something more heftier. The reason is because I'm thinking about getting a teleprompter that attaches to my lens here, so I want some more support for the camera and teleprompter. But other than that, I'm really happy with this setup here. Now I will have all the products that I mentioned here linked in the description below. Then I'll also have a different list of a possible upgraded setup with links to all those products as well. Now that upgraded version is still a little bit under $500, about $200 more than my current setup here. So it's still very affordable for what you get. So this has been my entire YouTube studio on a stand. Hope this is giving you some ideas on how to create or improve your own setup here. This has really improved and really changed my whole YouTube workflow. Now in the near future, I'm going to be doing a dedicated video on my entire YouTube workflow using my iPad. Now I'm talking about creating, capturing, editing, and publishing. And I'm really excited for that video. Now, if you have any ideas for my own setup here, leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Consider hitting that subscribe button. Until the next one, see ya.